Yay, Sarah. I am so happy that we are here to interview you, an Embodied Truth family cast member. You, your part in our work is truly memorable, and it's like it speaks to my kind of heart chakra. So thank you for your song and just your participation. So to begin, so this first question that I'm going to ask you is, can you tell us a little about who you are and what you do in this world of ours?
I came to this piece because I was trained as a dancer. I consider myself primarily an improvisational artist. So I love to dance, sing, theater, improv, paint, just like anything creative. I'm a mom. I've been an activist, gardener, all sorts of things. I had a pretty interesting little life leading up to all of this. And so I have two kids, let's see, a 14-year-old and a 21-year-old now. So I was the oldest member of our cast with the biggest, grownest kids. Yeah, and I think mainly right now I'm really struggling with where we are in the world in so many ways, and mainly just trying to work on being a really loving person.
Amen to that.
Yeah, without a doubt. Could you just speak a little bit about why you maybe wanted to be involved with Embodied Truth?
Yeah, so the first was just as a dancer, and then when I had my kids, I stopped dancing like professionally, and I was focusing most of my creative energy on raising children, and that was awesome. And then I slowly started doing a little bit more, and I actually had been in San Francisco. I'd moved back to Milwaukee, and so I was kind of just reaching out, putting my feelers out, trying to find out what's happening in the Milwaukee dance scene, and I ran into Daniel, and so I was just like paying attention and going to different theaters and stuff like that. And so then Daniel knew who I was and invited me to the audition. And it's interesting. I did think about this, that when I was here in Milwaukee, and I was connected to the dance scene, and then when I went to San Francisco, the theater and dance was so much more political. There was so much a deeper discussion about what was going on. And I think before I went there, I somehow thought that was cornier, like I wasn't as exposed to it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I felt like maybe often bringing politics and deeper issues into dance was, forced or corny. I had a judgment about it. And really going to San Francisco, I changed my outlook, and I was like, yeah, of course. And I saw so much beautiful, powerful work that also had social commentary and was talking about where we were as a nation, as a species. And so when you also brought this up, it was nice for me to see Milwaukee. Like I want Milwaukee. I still think Milwaukee is sometimes immature in that way, that our art and dance scene. Maybe there's a lot of like fear of putting ourselves out there in deeper pieces. So I was really also pleased just to be invited into something that had meat content to it that, like, for me resonated.
Nice. Well, thank you for that compliment. So what are some of the challenges, coming back to you being a parent, that you face as being a parent?
Some of the challenges that I have faced being a parent?
Yes.
Whoa. Staying calm. I think being a parent in all my relationships in my life just continually teach me, just like try to find what's my own power. Mm-hmm. How can I be in that moment? What are the pathways that I might be going to automatically that I might want to re-choose, that I might be replicating something that I saw or learned that might not really be benefiting me or my kids. So I don't know how successful I've always been at that, but that's, I think, the biggest opportunity for me in growth in life, right? Is to learn, okay, I don't just need to be responding to things. I can find my own calmness and like make conscious choices in how I am in this situation. And so obviously when you have a child who's making less conscious choices, right, they're like still learning how to navigate the world, and you're the older, wiser person in the room, you get to like be the one that, okay, I'm gonna step back and breathe here. How do I want to deal with whatever's happening here? So yeah, I would definitely say that's the gift from all my relationships, including my ones with my children.
Yeah.
I like that message though. Step back and breathe. Good reminder. Good reminder.
Over and
Definitely.
over.
Yeah.
I guess the thing you learn that you keep learning the same thing over and over.
Yeah. Without a doubt. It's like it just kind of constantly reminds you of here we go again, breathe again, step back.
Yeah.
Kind of following up on that, thinking about, you know, since the piece Embodied Truth dealt so kind of explicitly with thinking about race and gender, you know, how has those things affected some of the choices you've made as a parent?
Well, I think the biggest thing I did with my kids was just exposing them to a lot of different people, ideas, stories. So they've just read and listened to all sorts of perspectives and experiences. Um, we've talked about this earlier, how I tried to have books that were written from the perspective, or have protagonists that were minorities or women, and not just like because they were Black or something, but just incidentally, like, oh, it doesn't always have to be Sojourner Truth, right? It like there's real people just like us, not just like big heroes that are different genders and colors than us. Yeah, and I think I encouraged discussion about what was happening in the world, so awareness and discussion about it, and maybe trying to live as an example as a woman and as like an empowered woman, so that they could see how I wanted to be in the world and how I thought women should be treated in the world.
Mhm.
So and having, I think that included having the work that I did like as a mother, as a homemaker, respected, like when I was focusing mainly on that, like that's not dismissible work, like, no, that's really contributing to the world. Caring for children and elderly and neighbors is really valuable, historically feminine work.
Mhm.
So and
So
teaching them to do that historically feminine work too.
nice.
My kids can cook.
That is fabulous. I'm sending Tamayo to you. So thinking of now adding education into that. So education in race, education class, education gender, thinking of all of those. How do these impact, inform, and affect your parenting and your children's development?
So I think you're asking, how do all those variables affect my parenting and my children?
Yeah, and you don't have, you can pick the one that maybe really
Yeah.
relates to your situation.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing of being a person that's come from such privilege, and then also living in a country where things are kind of switching, so that our rich are getting richer, our poor are getting poorer. And so like I went from an upper middle class to probably a more middle to lower middle class sort of actual economics. If you looked at us on paper, you'd think we're poverty stricken, although I think we're immensely wealthy. So, and just I feel almost, for almost everything I have in my life, right, is all a gift. Like every talent or owning property, like everything that I have has been a gift and a privilege. And I think showing my kids or talking to my kids about that fact that we are gifted and privileged. Not that we don't want to feel good about our own, like what we are as ourselves, but it's interesting, like my father was a math professor, and my first son is like a math whiz kind of. And and that just like came down through him, like just flooded into him. But what does that mean in the future? Like, is he really gonna go to university and get a PhD in mathematics? Like that, like sort of insecurity maybe I feel for my kids within this world and like where they're entering. And I guess I feel that insecurity for like almost all the kids right now, like like what jobs are going to be valued in the future. And I think this goes back a little bit back to my response to the first question about valuing typically women's work about cooking and cleaning. But I've tried to instill in my kids valuing everybody's contribution. Like there's nothing dishonorable about shoveling dirt or picking up garbage, or, everybody is needed in this world, and all the things we do are needed. If we're really contributing. And so seeing how, I don't know, how important we are and not judging what they end up doing, I guess is part of that. So like that echelon, right? Like we're so immersed in like the structural society of who's on top of who on top of who, and just being like, no, that those are not about our real values. All these stories we've been taught about economics, and certainly the ones we've been talked about, gender and race, can just be pushed aside, and what's the real value. And I think also this reminds me of when I was a child about how my parents would write me my dad would write me these beautiful birthday cards about how awesome I was. You're beautiful and talented. And then I realized later that that was really wonderful. But what I really think we all need is to know that we're wonderful even underneath that. Like we're intrinsically worthy. And so I want my kids to feel that they're intrinsically worthy, and I want them to see other humans when they meet them, just look them in the eyes and see their soul and their spirits and their real worth.
It was a really beautiful thing you said. Thank you for like seeing the worth of someone, no matter who you are, right? You are intrinsically worthy. So with your participation and your part in Embodied Truth, what are you walking away with? What is your takeaway from being in Embodied Truth?
I think that's great, because actually that comes back exactly to what I just said, the beauty that we got to just all share our stories, and how powerful that is to hear other people's stories and share your stories, and then be with them to create something, to put that out in the world, and have a faith that we don't need to make it fancier, like that we could just be authentic in who we are, and that is the medicine. Like yeah. And like, again, that's one of those things that you learn over and over again. Like I've learned that before, but to being part of this process again, it's like, oh yeah, the medicine is stories and hearing and sharing and working with them. And so yeah, that would probably be my biggest takeaway, is just that remembering how powerful and beautiful and touching. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. If you could put your parenting approach and or experience into one word, what would it be?
I got the same word as loose. I'm a pretty loose parent, and I have some anxiety, or I'm not quite confident in how I've done it all, but that was the main thing. I had kids that I kind of let just really figure it out on their own a lot. Yeah.
All right. And for our last question, what would be one bit of wisdom you'd want to offer your child or children as they become a parent in the future, if and when they become a parent?
Yeah. I think it goes back to that breathe, patience, and maybe taking that moment to really like have some empathy for yourself, and like wherever you are in parenting, like check in with your own truth, and then then move forward with parenting. Yeah, so we're not just always reacting, but really, yeah. And then also everything changes. Maybe that's not for my kids when they're parents, maybe that's for now. You may feel like that now. You might not feel like that later.
Everything mm-hmm. Change is the constant.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I'm reading a book right now, which I happen to have right next to me, Octavia Butler.
Oh, how hilarious is that?
Wow.
And in it, have you read it?
I'm just starting. I was trying to read it with Tamayo, but I'm gonna
it's a little intense for and she says in it the main character is God is change, and that change is the only constant. And so that's great.
Yeah.
Funny. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time again to chat with us. Really appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take care and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, and let's all cross our fingers. Stability in the nation. Woo!
No doubt. Woo. It's
Calm. Talk about calm.
Okay. Everybody step back and take a deep breath.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Like, everyone's like, well, not everyone, but there's a group of people that are like this right now.
Yeah, it can be contagious. Okay, take care. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Sarah.
Bye, Sarah.
Bye.